Hello and welcome to the Embracing the Mystery podcast, hosted by yours truly, Danny Rem. This is a podcast where we have expansive conversations around living an empowered and embodied soul-led life, expanding your consciousness and belief systems, what it means to fully embrace the mystery of life that we are all living, and so much more. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave a rating or review wherever you listen. Share it on your social media platforms, like and subscribe. Thank you for being here and enjoy. Hello, Prema Love, and welcome to the Embracing the Mystery podcast.
Aloha.
Thank you so much for being here today, Prema. I'm so excited to have a conversation with you, and this is so fun just because we're such good friends. And I'm excited to share with our audience just the conversations that you and I have in day-to-day life, because I feel like it's going to be so helpful for so many people.
Thank you so much. Such an honor and a blessing to be here with you, Danny. And thank you for inviting me. And so excited to see what wants to come through today.
Hmm. Yeah, so let's get started. I would love to ask you a little bit about the album you just released. I know I have absolutely fallen in love with some of the songs and used them in some of my ceremonies and gotten such beautiful feedback from the people who have listened to it, and I'm sure you have as well. So I'm curious about maybe your journey on creating this album and the songs that came through you, like how that came about and what it really means to you.
Thank you so much for that question. Yeah, so this is my fifth album. I've been working with my amazing producer, Ben Leinbach, and he's just so wonderful. And we've just been having such a great time working on this album. And really, these albums come just from beyond the beyond, and they've been my medicine. So they're medicine music for transformation and for transformational times. And, I just want to share these songs with others because these are the songs that have helped me heal and integrate all kinds of things. I write music when I'm grieving, when I'm in love, when I'm happy, when I'm sad. I bring it all to this practice, and this has been my practice for over 20 years. So,
Mm.
this new song is called Open the Gateway. It has many different meanings, but it's about walking through this new gateway or this new timeline for all of humanity, this birthing of this new golden era that we're co creating, this heaven on earth reality that's so possible and that we live and embody.
So beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And I'm curious if you have a favorite song on the album and why it was your favorite.
Mm, it changes. It's funny. Because these songs, when I play them, they're still medicine for me. And like last night, I had a little sunset beach time, and the song that was resonating for me the most last night was Divine Union.
Hmm.
And Divine Union is really about the divine union with divine inside of us, with the beloved inside of us, and that ripple effect that that has for all our connections and our connection with the earth and with the beloved and all.
So beautiful. And it's so true. And I really feel that from that song. I love that you're calling in Divine Mother, Sacred Father, and just the weaving of the two in the one.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wonder if you want to speak a little bit about something that you and I have talked about. And you were on tour, and as you were releasing these songs, you were kind of like going through the initiation of the songs you were releasing again. Do you want to speak about that a little bit?
Yeah, thanks so much for asking. That's such a great question. So, I always talk about I'm not just slapping these songs together out of nowhere. These are healing songs from spirit, whatever you want to call that divine energy that come through. And I feel like I'm just a channel to receive them. I just open that space and they come in and down. And a lot of times they come when I'm, taking a bath or taking a shower or driving is when a lot of songs come through. So I'll just put my voice memo, boom, and then I'll just start singing the song. And then I come to my healing space and I start weaving the songs together. Um, but you were asking about like this integration alchemy work that comes through with the songs. And, I'm being called to live these songs and embody the songs and learn from the songs. They're my teachers and they're my medicine. So, like with each song, when I was releasing the song Bring It, or Bring It to the Light, I was going through those initiations in Sedona where a lot of dark things were revealed to me. And it was the perfect timing to release that song because that was what was needed. And with each song, it has a story and it has a journey. Like some of these songs have come through many years ago and they're just now birthing, but they're finally released into the world because they have an energy of a collective healing. They're not just for myself, they're for all of us.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, they've been so healing for me to listen to. And I love when they just like randomly come on my shuffle in the perfect moment. And sometimes it can bring tears and just like really beautiful release. And yeah, I'm grateful that you're sharing your gifts with the world and the medicine that's been for you is now for so many other people, which is so awesome.
Mm. Thank you.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit more about this like inner alchemy work, these initiations that we go through, because I feel like on our planet right now, so many of us are going through such deep initiations, really coming to terms with a lot of things that maybe are no longer in alignment in our life, or weren't fully rooted in truth to begin with. And we're kind of excavating those things and just coming into greater alignment with our spirit and with the truth of love. And yeah, I wonder if you want to speak about that a little bit. I know it's something you and I just talk about in general with each other. So the
Mm.
journey of alchemy and initiation and going through
Mm.
that birth portal.
Yeah, it's really big. And, there's a saying like it's happening for you, right? So, no matter what it seems, these initiations are ultimately happening for our liberation and for our evolution. And we're all going through this evolution together in different ways and forms. And ultimately, that's what's happening. And I feel like a lot of us are not only awakening, but we're remembering the truth of who we are. And so, in that process, it's like, wow, I wasn't this version of myself that I played out. And I played this role for 20 years, 30 years. And these illusions are being illuminated and they're being shattered. And in that, you'll see this painting behind me, the Phoenix Rising. And it really resonates for me, the Phoenix, as we rise from the ashes of these old versions. And we don't need to leave these parts behind. Alchemy work is weaving these pieces in, loving and embracing these pieces and learning from these. And we've been going through a lot of like really deep lessons. You can call them karmic lessons, whatever you want to call them. And so the alchemy work is integrating the shadow parts of ourself, the light. Some people say, oh, I'm a light worker. I heard that for so long. And now I hear people say, I'm a shadow worker. And that resonated too. And I'm like, actually, I'm a shadow and light worker, like, because
Mm,
we're both. And so that's the dance, the yin and yang, and integrating and weaving those and loving all of those parts.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, and it's so important that we don't try to get rid of any of the parts or necessarily like fix them, but like you're saying, like bringing them home, integrating them, giving them a voice, but maybe not necessarily letting them like run the show, but giving them space to be, and be held in that love.
Absolutely. And I feel like we've had so much spiritual bypass and so much conditioning that we're unwinding from. And
Hmm.
so, like, the new, healthier, alchemized version to me, and I hear so much is being with it, and my personal practice, being with it, feeling it, allowing it to move through. But I always say to my clients and my students is like not staying stuck in it is the key piece. Like we have to allow ourselves the time and the space to grieve, to feel, maybe even to get angry, and to have outlets and ways that we can channel that in positive ways.
Right. That's such a good reminder because I think it can be easy to kind of get stuck there or, when you get in really deep and the feelings are super intense, it can kind of, knock us over like a wave. But how can we just let it move through and stay grounded and then use, whatever gifts or insights or jewels or gems that came from going to those steps in our life, how do we use what we learn in our day-to-day life so that we don't keep repeating the same thing?
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like having a spiritual practice or a spiritual foundation has been everything. That's been the gold in my life. I've had a spiritual teacher in my life for over 20 years. And, it's been like this sacred marriage in a way where there's times that I feel this like closeness and there's times that I like kind of pull back. But no matter what's happening, it's like the only way I know how to explain it, it's like a solid rock, right? Or
Mm.
like, it's, or a tree that's solid and rooted and it's there and it's not going anywhere. And it's just a place where I can go. And so in my practice, I go to that place through mantra, through kirtan, through that art of, singing my heart out to the divine and bringing the longing and the pain and the grief, whatever it is, as a practice, not only in my own personal space, but also in community and chanting. And my teacher says it's one of the most powerful tools we have during this day and age. But there's so many practices. And it's, we can weave in all the practices or we can choose one that really resonates for us. Breath work is one, a big practice of yours, Zanny, I know, and I've sat in ceremony with you in that way. So beautiful. And there's so many other tools that we have that our ancestors didn't have access to, or even our family members. So we're living in an incredible time where we have all these tools at our fingertips.
Yeah, it's so true. There's so much that we know now and are aware of, and like you said, have access to that we didn't in the past. And it's such a gift because then we have the tools to finally like move forward with these things that maybe have been in our lineage or these traumas that our families have been dealing with for so long and now we have the tools to move forward. And I also wanted to touch on something you were saying about that solid foundation and the rock. Because someone once said to me, it's the problem isn't the storm that comes. The problem is if the root system isn't strong enough. So, like having that spiritual practice, having our tools, knowing what helps us in those moments is so important so we can move through the storm rather than get washed away or knocked over. And of course, that happens too, and that's a part of the process. But yeah, the tools are so amazing. And it was always so special to be at the Ram Dass house or at your goddess ceremonies. I think that's how we met, actually. I came to one
Mm-hmm.
of your goddess ceremonies, you're chanting, and maybe there was cacao or something, and it was such
Mm-hmm.
a beautiful moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that I love that what you shared about the storm and being able to stay rooted in that way. I just went through a personal huge transformation in my life where a storm came into my life, like a spiritual storm. And I didn't feel prepared for it. I didn't feel ready for it. And that's the thing. Sometimes it just takes us off guard and it just hits us like a spiritual 2x4, like a ton of bricks. And it's spirit like wanting to get us to wake up and get our attention. And it's really for the evolution and the transformation. And so that took me on such a deep journey the last month. And I'm so grateful for the tools that we're talking about, these goddess ceremonies, like how we met, and breath work and mantra, and, having that solid foundation that we can come back to.
Absolutely. Yeah, and having each other and having community so helpful as well because I think that we're all going through such similar things, even if it looks different, like things might be presented differently to us externally, but really like what's happening internally is happening on a collective level. We're all meeting these deeper layers that maybe haven't been met before and learning how to bring love in there.
Absolutely. Spiritual community is so important. And that's a big way how I pulled myself out of a really big initiation that I had been coming out of. And I want to add, no matter, what it seems like and what we're going through, like you said, ultimately it's the same stuff, right? We're all coming home, we're walking each other home, like Ram Dass says.
Hmm.
And it's all happening for us, back to that. And it's happening for a reason and a purpose higher than we can see and know sometimes. And just this recent initiation that I went through, now that I'm out the other end, the light at the end of the tunnel, right? I came through. We talked about receiving the jewels and the wisdom that comes through doing this work. It might not seem like we're doing much. Maybe we have to isolate from the world for a while and really go in and develop a deeper spiritual practice. Maybe sometimes that's just feeling grief. Like, what do you need to heal from grief? And maybe that's being alone, or maybe getting angry and having ways to channel that, just like we said, being able to create that space so that we can feel and we can go to the depths. And I'll say, through being with my practice, being with it and feeling it, breathing through it, getting angry, getting sad, whatever it is. Every day it's a different journey, right? Now I'm birthing my life's work, and it was all worth it. And I know that I chose on a soul level to sign up for these initiations because it's bigger than me, it's bigger than us. And whatever jewels that I receive, it's for healing of my family, my lineage, my ancestry, and the collective. So it's so much bigger, and it's valuable, and it's really sacred every part of the journey, no matter what it seems.
That's so beautiful and such a powerful point to make that the healing that we go through, the things that we experience are not only for ourselves, but for other people too. And um, some of us do go before and we have these intense experiences and alchemize it and bring that medicine back to our communities and families. So thank you for making that a point. It's such a beautiful reminder, that it's not just for us, it's not just about us, it's for everyone. Mm.
Yeah. I'm laughing with my spirit guides. They're like, you took one for the team.
Oh, yes.
And we do sometimes, and being able to weave in that humor, and
Yeah.
being able to like remember the truth of what's happening, even though sometimes when we're in it, we don't see it that way, but then we come out with new ideas and inspiration and other ways that we can help our community and our family and our students and our clients and our beloveds and our friends.
hmm Yeah, playfulness and humor is so important at this time on the planet because it can seem so serious and sometimes the work is serious and then we have to pull ourselves out and remember, to bring in the lighthearted energy, the play, the dolphin frequencies, the inner child birthday parties and all the things.
Absolutely. Keeping the balance.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and you're talking about this initiation that you just went through, and I'm curious if you want to share any of the gems that you received.
Wow, that's a big question. Well, one of the gems I would say, because I've been a sound practitioner for over 20 years and on the spiritual pilgrimage for over 20 years, receiving jewels and guidance and wisdom, not only from all kinds of spiritual teachers from all around the world. Um, but I would say one of the biggest jewels and gems that's coming out of this for me is what I'm birthing now, which is called alchemize. We use that word, and it's a vocal activation mentorship, but there's so much more. And it gives us the tools to really be able to weave it all in. And like we were saying, the shadow and the light, um, how can we alchemize these pieces and what can we birth from that? And so sometimes in this process, traumas are triggered. And that's been a big collective word that we hear a lot. And now we have so many more tools to be with that trauma and move through that and look at our patterns and old ways of being that don't serve. And so we're kind of really bringing all these things back home, like you were talking about earlier, and bringing in. And so I feel like this is also a time of women like really stepping into their voice and empowering their voice. And, for some men too that I'm working with as well. And I feel like part of what's happening is that this year for me has really been about authenticity. And I've really had to shed these layers of codependency, of people pleasing, ways like that weren't serving me anymore, and a way of being that wasn't even who I truly was and being my authentic self. It was more from a place of trauma and from just like an upbringing and a way sometimes that we have to be to survive or to protect ourselves growing up when it's not safe. So we don't speak up, we don't ask for our needs to be met. And we just like, be the golden child or perfect or whatever it is and just become people pleasing. And so I've been talking to so many clients and students that are also going through these initiations, and this old way of being isn't serving. Like we're being called to step into the highest, most truthful version of ourselves, and truth and integrity has been a big theme. And so yeah, we're saying, oh, I want that from my beloved and my partner or my family member or this, but actually it starts within myself. And I saw
Mm.
this beautiful quote. It said heaven on earth is an inside job. And
Totally.
yeah, it all comes back to heaven on earth is an inside job, doing our inner work and taking responsibility, which weaves in with Ho'oponopono. Ho'oponopono, the spiritual practice of forgiveness and taking responsibility, self responsibility. So cleaning the things up, alchemizing the things. And so that's kind of a long version of some of the patterns I've shifted out of and alchemized and transformed in my life, which I see happening for so many others.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Prema. And first, I just want to respond to what you shared about your vocal alchemy course. And I just have to say, if anyone is listening, Prema is definitely the person to deliver this kind of container and medicine. And your voice is just so powerful and you hold such sacred, beautiful space. So I just wanted to say that initially.
Mm.
And yeah, with the codependency that you're speaking to, it really is a time on our planet where I feel that it's shifting and people are becoming so much more aware of why they're choosing the partners that they are, where they're coming from in relationships, and things are really starting to shift. And it's so beautiful to have that conscious awareness of who we're choosing, why we're choosing them, why we're choosing to show up the way we are, or the way they're showing up. And it all really comes back to, like you said, our childhood, how we were raised, and how we had to be to survive. And we get to shift and peel those layers back and find out what's really true for us now, which is so powerful. And like you said, taking responsibility for what we're creating and what we're manifesting, because yeah, everything out there, like you said, like heaven on earth is an inside job, and it's all just reflecting back and pointing us back to that mirror within.
Hmm. Absolutely. And I feel like it's like being on autopilot, right? It's just
Mm.
when you've been doing something for so long, you just do it. And it's just like you're used to it. And sometimes we're used to these kinds of energies or traumas or archetypes or playing out these stories and these roles that don't serve anymore. And I had a really interesting conversation with my mom the other day. And we were talking about like abusive relationships and narcissism and toxic relationships and things like that. There's so many labels for it these days, but uh, relationships that are not healthy, they're not in the highest alignment. And so we see so much of that. And there are healthy ones on the planet, more and more popping up. But I was talking about, these toxic relationships. And she's like, I'm like, I've seen these in our family. And, she was like, where do they come from? And why does this
Mm.
keep continuing? And I'm like, well, look at our family lineage, right? And anybody can
Mhm.
just look back at their family lineage and they see these patterns. And I started asking questions and I'm like, okay, what about this person and these relationships? And then you start going, okay, like it's going far back and it's continued. And that's how patterns continue until the cosmic paradigm busters, as this beautiful brother, Phil, he just recently passed away, a brother in our family here in Maui. He said, we're the cosmic paradigm busters, which makes me laugh. And I'll never
Love
forget that
it.
because we are. It's so on point. We are the ones that we've been waiting for. We're the ones that are like busting through these old, ways of being and this conditioning that has not served us for a long time. And we're finally like really lifting these veils and seeing the truth of who we are and going beyond all the old ways that don't serve.
I love that. Cosmic paradigm busters. I've also heard the term, I think it's cycle breaker, breaking the cycles.
Yeah, yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we could get a little vulnerable and give real life examples if you're open to that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we can each share maybe um, certain patterns of codependency that we've been breaking in relationships, or how we've been seeing that like passed down, or whatever you feel to share around that, just to give people kind of like a real life reference, like maybe they can relate and they're going through the same
Mm.
thing or something like that.
Mm. Yeah. Thank you for inviting that vulnerability. So, a perfect example, and I want to talk a little bit about this energy traveling down the line through the generations. A perfect example is my grandparents. They I come from a family of like some really dark energies and some really toxic abusive energies. And sometimes I tell people that and they're like, "Really? You come from that? Really? You went through that?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're amazed because I've done a lot of clearing and healing work, so many years of dedicating my life to this. So they're just like, "Whoa." And I'm like, "Yeah, this is why." Like most of my time I just do this inner work, right?
Right.
But for my grandparents, they have always been in a toxic, narcissistic, abusive relationship to this day for over like 60 years.
Mm.
And so I got to witness that. And I'm like, wow. And I got to see, like, wow, that's why this is played out with other family members down the line. And personally, I've played that out in romantic relationships. And I've done a lot of clearing and work, including like EMDR, which is trauma therapy, and breath work. And sometimes I feel like we just, on a soul level, sign up for these relationships to learn these lessons, to complete these lessons, to write a new story, to have breakthroughs. And sometimes we're playing these things out. Like we'll choose a partner that's similar to someone that was toxic and abusive to us in our
Right.
life, a partner, right? And so then they're triggering all these same things. And it's like, oh, I chose you because you're familiar to me and I'm working out the same thing. And some of that ties in with, the inner child that just wants to be chosen and that wants to be loved. And it
Hmm.
comes back to that. And I got to see that play out in relationships. But I feel like I was invited to play that last one out and really shift and see my patterns and see what I was playing out. And, the codependency is like, it's tied in with that people pleasing, like wanting to do something to make somebody else happy or fulfilled. And I played that out in this relationship that I was in for 7 years. And I broke free of that and saw, like, hey, I can't make you happy and I can't fulfill you. You have to connect to source on your own. And ultimately, we all have to do that work. And we do that through the mantra, through the breath work, through connecting with nature, connecting with the plants, connecting with these tools that we have, and so much more.
100%. Yeah. I like how you just brought in that we need that connection with the divine to fill that space so that we're not seeking for it outwards. And even to go back what we mentioned earlier, that connection being the foundation for the storms and for everything. And it really is so necessary for it to be the foundation of romantic partnership as well, and all our relations, really, so that we're not, you know, trying to get our needs met in all these different ways externally. And of course, we all have needs, and that's okay too. And there is like space for that as well. But doing what we can within as
Mm-hmm.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard this beautiful word, independent, or there's codependence and then there's interdependence.
Hmm.
And the interdependence is, yeah, I can have a relationship with you. And this can not only be in a romantic relationship, it can be a friendship too. It's all relating, right? So interdependence is like, it's healthy, it's balanced, it's aligned. Codependence is like doing everything to please this person and make them happy and like being at their beck and call like all the time in a way that's abandoning yourself. And
Mm.
so interdependence is like we're both whole, healthy, sovereign beings that are committed and devoted to the inner work. No matter what, this is our practice, and we'll continue to do the inner work and be devoted to it. And we can meet each other and we can show up and meet, some needs for each other. Like you might have different needs. You have to talk about that and communicate that. And we're not going to just like abandon each other. We're going to like see where we can show up and support each other without abandoning ourselves, basically.
Right. Yeah. Not abandoning ourselves is such a big piece. And I know that that's something I've had to work on in terms of codependency. For me, like having an absent father and getting to see the places where I was like choosing others before myself and coming back home and choosing myself and honoring my needs and my boundaries and like you said, then coming together with another person rather than just like completely abandoning myself or the relationship. And yeah, I think that's such a big one for us to choose ourselves before abandoning ourselves to be chosen.
Hmm. Absolutely. Thank you for being vulnerable about the father stuff. I can really relate with that because I had the absent father as well. And so I had to develop like being my own father and actually my own mother to myself, even though me and my mom have a great relationship. And they're still healing and clearing with the absent father energy. And so I've had to really, no matter what, no matter how they're showing up for me, that can be your mother and father, or even a partner, or even a friend. I'm choosing myself and I'm
Mhm.
choosing to mother and father myself. And there's different ways and different practices we can, integrate that. But there was one other thing I wanted to share on codependency, which was an amazing podcast I heard years ago with Russell Brand and a woman that studied with shamans all around the world. And what she said was she did a talk on codependency, and she was saying codependency is something like that developed in our this modern world because we got, well, one, disconnected from nature, and
Mhm.
two, from community and living like in tribal ways. And so
Totally.
we would go to in tribal living, we would all play our divine roles and divine parts, and we didn't go to one person to fill all our needs. We had a whole community and tribe, and we all shared, and it was abundant, and there was more than enough, usually, right, of energy or love to share and connection. But like in these modern relationships, some of them, just an example, you might be in a small little apartment with your partner and you're isolated from community and you're trying to meet all the roles and all the needs for the other person, and that's just not healthy. It's not going to happen. And after a while of being isolated, you're going to maybe get depressed, or it's going to become toxic and you resent each other. And so yeah, that's just another example of the codependency, and then the interdependence.
I love that you brought that up because yeah, it's something we're all dealing with, and it's beautiful to hear the perspective of the root again being the system that is just like out of alignment with how we're living now, and out of alignment with nature and our natural ways and our natural inner knowing and drive to live in community and with the land in those ways. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, definitely. And I know you've spent a lot of time in tribal living as well in Peru and working with the plants and connecting with nature. And I know that they've taught you a lot as well about, sacred relating and relationships, and we need that connection to nature first and foremost, and that, you know, that wholeness, that whole connection to source, to spirit first and foremost.
100%. Yeah. When I was in Peru, I really had a deeper understanding of how our relationship with nature is so important because truly like our relationship again with like the divine or God or nature, whatever you want to call it, is a reflection of our relationship with everything and with ourselves. And luckily, nature is such a pure frequency that she has the ability to um guide us back into alignment with ourselves and harmony within so that we can bring that into other relationships as well. But yeah, the plants are so intelligent for helping us rediscover that innate wisdom and deeper connection to our spirit and to ourselves and to life that has always been there. We've just gotten disconnected from it and it shows up in our relationships.
Definitely. And this is super cosmic, but the next song release that I'm releasing on my album is called Beauty Way. And it's a super simple song. And, it's very different than anything I've ever released because it's got this very like Americana flavor. And, but that was just the way the song came through. And it's called Beauty Way. And the beauty way is like it talks about like we're honoring nature, we're honoring Mother Earth, we're honoring death and rebirth. Those are some of the lyrics.
Mm.
And the song is really about connecting to nature every day and as our foundation and as our center and as the focus with our relationships, all of our relationships and all our relations. Um, and honoring, walking in balance and walking in beauty and creating beauty from the murk and the darkness and all of it. That's part of that alchemy work that we're doing.
I love it, Prema. So beautiful. I can't wait to hear it.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm curious, Prema, what your definition of the beauty way would be, because I know it's different for everybody, but what does that mean to you?
Mm. I mean, for me, it's really about having a deep reverence and respect and honor for nature and communing with her and learning the art of listening to her.
Mm.
She has so much to share and so much wisdom. And that's where I get so much of my inspiration from, is from the earth and from nature. And Beauty Way is actually, ooh, I love it. Here it's 11:11, right? Listening to those little messages and those synchronistic moments. But I wanted to share those. It says the Beauty Way prayer is a Navajo Dene traditional prayer. So, like traditionally, this is the meaning of it. In beauty, I walk. With beauty before me, I walk. With beauty behind me, I walk. With beauty above me, I walk. With beauty around me, I walk. It has become beauty again. It has become beauty again. It has become beauty again. It has become beauty again.
Mm.
And I love that part. It has become beauty again for me is like no matter like the funk and the murk and the darkness and all of this, this comes back to the alchemy that we've been talking about so much. It's like bringing it back to beauty. That's where all the beautiful art and music of the world comes from these dark, painful experiences and suffering and traumas and woundings. And how can we just like bring it all to the beauty way and alchemize it all and create something more beautiful from it?
Mm, absolutely, yeah. And we can even find beauty in those challenging moments too, even though it can feel a bit more challenging at the time. There's always beauty to be found.
Yes, exactly. And you might not see it in the moment, but then sometimes looking back, you see the gift in it and you see the beauty in it, and that it was really for your liberation.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking of actually something I went through in Peru, actually when I ended a past relationship that I was in. And this is back to relationships, but getting to see that sometimes things can feel so challenging, and the people who love us the most play the most challenging parts for us to really be a catalyst for our growth and evolution, and for us to really step into who we're meant to be here. So even though these things can seem so challenging, they really are. It's like the diamond being put under pressure, to become more beautiful, or this.
Absolutely. I love that you brought that in. And it reminds me of a quote my teacher said. She said, we're all like rocks and we're in a tumbler and we're hitting up against each other until we get polished. And that comes back to like Ram Dass saying, like, we're all walking each other home. Like I always say, sometimes the people that love us the most play the hardest roles for us and hurt us the most.
Hmm.
And, in the moment you might be angry or hurt and might not see it. And that takes you on a journey of healing that probably triggers a deeper thing that was already there. Right. But then after you do the work and the alchemy work and you take responsibility through Ho'oponopono, it comes back to yourself and you realize it was all to set you free to your
Hmm.
highest timeline and to your highest truth.
Totally, yeah. Yeah, and it can be so in our face, and so uncomfortable, and just challenging, but there is such magic and beauty on the other side of these things and the transformations that we go through.
Absolutely.
And what would you say to someone who's going through a challenging time at the moment, and maybe can't fully see the light at the end of the tunnel yet? What advice
Mm.
would you give?
I would say, well, like we talked about, creating a deeper connection to nature because she's the mother and the divine feminine energy that's so needed at this time.
Hmm.
And spending time with her, like getting outside, getting your feet on the earth, listening to nature sounds, going to beautiful places is definitely a huge part of it. Honor wherever you're at, and it's all okay. And things always move and shift. Like you might be in a dark place, but it doesn't mean you're going to be there forever, even though sometimes it feels like you're never going to come out of this bottomless pit of darkness and pain and suffering. But I will say what's pulled me out every time is my connection with my spiritual teacher and my connection with spirit. And I would say a big part of it is surrender. Like sometimes we have to get to that place where we're so humbled that we're just like, God, spirit, divine, whatever name you want to say, you're on your hands and knees and you're just like, I surrender it all. And sometimes that's the biggest part of what these initiations are about. We've been trying to do it our own way for so long
Mm.
and it's not working. And that's going to happen, Alma says, like for every person at some point. That's the journey. You're going to get to that place where you're humbled and you have to surrender it all. And I would say also, like we talked about having all the tools, like having your cosmic tool belt, mantra, community, spiritual practice, humor, play and fun. And if you're just in these deep, dark places, you don't have to do it all at once. Maybe just having a friend that you have as support and calling in your higher self and your guides and your support system. And that might show up in all different kinds of ways. And having spiritual community is really huge. I would say those are the main things. And of course, yeah, singing, um, sometimes just feeling. We talked about like giving your inner child like some cake or some cookies, or
Chocolate.
developing a relationship, chocolate, developing a relationship with your inner child and mothering and fathering that little one and honoring what the little one needs is a really big one too.
Love it. Yeah. You and I are good at that one. Tending to the inner child.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and rest and integration time is so important. I
Mm.
can't say that enough. Honoring your body and what it needs. And sometimes that's just laying in bed and sleeping in a little extra, slowing down, taking naps, just eating really nurturing and nourishing food, taking baths, things like that. Really showering yourself with self love and self care and creating a self care ritual.
Totally, yeah. Rest is so important. I think it's so much more important than we actually realize. And I think so much deep integration of the things that we're moving through and the layers that we're peeling back and integrating happens during the stillness and the rest and the just being and the doing nothing. It's so necessary and it can feel so foreign to us because we live in the society that is it's very much in a masculine energy and the doing and the rewards and the recognition that come from the doing and the success, but it's like it's just as important to rest and be and like you said, like get your feet on the grass and just come home to yourself, take care of yourself and from that place eventually we step into the doing and the creating again and letting the energy flow, but it's like we can't do that if we're not taking care of ourselves.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I wanted to touch on too the thing you said about how we're like trying to do it our own way and it's not working. Because I feel like that's happening at such a large scale on our planet right now. Like the old ways are not working and we're coming up against so much resistance or blocks and how we used to get through those things before, again, with the pushing and the forcing and the, well, I'm gonna work harder and try harder and make it happen. And it's not really working anymore. And I think we're being invited to come into this greater space of alignment within ourselves and with the divine, and the earth again, to be able to create from that space rather than this egoic, well, I'm gonna do this because I need to do it and I want to do it and I'm gonna make it happen, but rather like allowing life to really move through us and see what happens from that place rather than what we think we need to do or complete.
Absolutely. I always say the Divine Mother's running the show.
Yeah.
And, sometimes when people are like, who do you work for? I'm like, I work for the goddess. I work for the Divine Mother. I'm employed by her. And can you imagine if we all got to that place within ourselves?
My
I mean, the
gosh.
mother is the earth, right? If every being on this planet came to that place within themselves where they surrendered their life to
Mhm.
the Divine Mother and the divine feminine and said, I'm going to just allow it to flow and being in that receptive feminine energy, how it would be such a different energy on the planet. And so, like, the feminine can get stuff done. She does,
Oh yeah.
right? But it's in another kind of way. And it's like in a balanced way where she knows when she needs to rest and she knows when it's time to like take action and make things happen. And the truth is, we all have both. We need both. We do have the Shiva and Shakti, and it's really kind of balancing and integrating the two.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. I love that we're talking about this working for the goddess because I think this morning I sent you a meme and maybe it was like little fairies or something, but it was like, all my girlies work for the goddess or something like that.
That's right. Oh my gosh, that was so great. No, it was Kali, Goddess Kali, which I loved. That was so
Okay, yeah, even better.
on point. So on point. Love it.
Aw. Yeah, truly, we can get so much more done when we are connected to that space with Ma or God or the divine, whatever you want to call it, and channeling that energy. It's so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Actually, I'm thinking back to when we met because I had started a new practice in the morning where I decided not to plan anything on certain days when I would like take work off and things. And I would sit and meditate in the morning and ask, I would say, like, Ma, what do you want me to do today? And I remember there was one day and she was like, you need to go to Prema's ceremony. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then I showed up and then we became friends and started, sharing work together on the island. So it's a beautiful example of that guidance that can come through when we're willing to listen.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm so grateful for that moment because we just became dear soul sisters, dear friends, and we've been walking this really potent, wild journey together with the divine ever since. And since then, we've co created beautiful ceremonies together, you with your breath work. And I've weaved in music, and I just love what you offer in your breathwork ceremonies and sessions, and your work with the plants and the earth, and just all the incredible work you do, the Akashic readings that you do. And it's just been incredible to witness and also co create with you.
Aw, thank you, Prema. Likewise, you're such a powerful being, and the work you bring through is so incredible. And you just create such beautiful sacred space. And how fun was it to just weave that together? I had such a beautiful time, and I look forward to more when I return.
Yes, please. Mahalo.
And Prema, I know you have some beautiful potent offerings coming up on the island and online, virtual as well, I think. Yes. That
Yeah,
would awesome. Yeah, please share with us and let us know how people can stay connected with you.
beautiful. Thanks so much for asking, Danny. So I want to, yeah, bring it back home to what we were talking about, this alchemy work. And that's actually the name of my new offering. It's called Alchemize, and it's about alchemizing all these experiences uh, and weaving them in through a practice of mantra, of medicine music, of sacred music, sound. And we're doing the spiritual and emotional work too. So the inner work is woven into this practice. And I'm just so ecstatic about this because it really feels like my life's work in many ways. I've put on so many retreats and healing sessions and so many different offerings over the years. And it feels like bringing everything into one really beautiful sacred container of empowerment. Um, not only to activate your voice and empower the voice, but also like honor the journey that you've been on, and how can you create something beautiful from all these experiences. So that's the alchemy work that I'll be doing, and we'll be launching that in the next coming weeks. So I'm working behind the scenes on that. And I have so many other healing offerings and retreats and different things that are all on my website, premalovemusic.com. And also, what else? Oh, I'm birthing the tail end of my new album. So we're getting ready to release Beauty Way, which is the fifth song on the album, in the coming weeks as well. And then we have a few more songs. And yeah, just thank you so much for your love and support and for checking out my work and my my dharma and my passion and my mission to humanity, to bring these teachings from all the different spiritual teachers and lineages that I've been with and sat with for over the years. So I wanted to create something really accessible for just anybody to step into that feels really loving, warm, and inviting, and nourishing and nurturing.
Thank you so much for sharing, Prema. Yeah, and I will put the links for all of that and Prema's Instagram and Facebook and things in the bio, and you guys can stay connected with her there. And I'm sure you'll post everything for that on your social medias. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. This is just such a gift, Danny, and I love what you're creating and birthing and all your beautiful offerings as well. So, what an honor to be on this podcast with you. Mahalo.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Embracing the Mystery, and I hope you enjoyed. To stay connected, you can follow me on Instagram at Danny M. Rem, or follow and like my Facebook business page, Danny Rem Embracing the Mystery, where I share weekly live channelings, guided meditations, and content to help empower you to live an authentic and embodied soul-led life. You can also find the links to this information in the bio of this episode. Thank you for being here, and I hope you enjoyed.